You guys, welcome so much for being here tonight. We are super excited to offer another 1 Million Women Take Control virtual series. This one is The Cost of Caring, Why Women Must Plan. We are super excited to get this going. We have some special guest speakers. Of course, if I can get this to move. There it goes. And I can't change my screen. There we go. First coming up, the whole reason that this came to be was the mission for 1 Million Women, and you're going to get to meet Kim Schooler tonight. But we often have guest speakers, and our guest speakers are often talking about the things that women face. And because it's May, we're talking about women in the caregiver role, women being mothers, but also caregivers of their parents. And with us today is Myrnie Mendoza. Myrnie is here from Atlanta. And Myrnie, I'm going to go ahead and have you share your screen or share your face. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see your full face. And Myrnie, go ahead and introduce yourself real fast and let us know more about you.
Yes, hi everybody. And I'm very excited to be with all of you here today. And I have been a certified financial educator for over 20 years. And I have worked with all kinds of individuals, families, business owners from all different walks of life. And one of the things that I'm most passionate about is help educating women on some of these super important concepts that should be taught in school, but for whatever reason, they're not being taught. And so I love teaching everybody about how money works, but I especially enjoy teaching it to women because, it's not that that money works differently for women, but it's because women can find themselves in different situations, as we will all see tonight. And one of the things I did after spending most of my life and most of my career in Los Angeles, I made the bold move of moving cross country with my husband, our two kids, and my parents about 4 years ago from Los Angeles, California to the Atlanta area. And I made this move so that we can live a more purpose-driven, meaningful life. And it's also awesome that we're able to do that being so close to the WealthWave headquarters.
Hold on, I'm going to share your screen now, and we'll go through your slide deck. I apologize, we're having a few little technical difficulties. Doesn't matter how much you plan, right? It just happens.
Gotta love technology.
Myrnie, we're so glad to have you here tonight. Your slides should be going. Here we go. Here's your first one. Are you guys seeing it? No?
It doesn't look like it's up yet.
Okay, here it
Oh,
comes.
now it's starting. Brandy, we can see your desktop, but the slide deck is not up.
Storm.
You want me to try it on my end, or do you think it's coming up?
Yep, here it comes. I apologize. We have now a thunderstorm here in Oklahoma. Okay, let me try one more share. Are you seeing it now?
Yes, but it's not in full view. Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Brandy, for starting us off this evening. And first off, I'd like to say good evening to all the ladies and a few gentlemen. that are here with us tonight. It is truly an honor to be with all of you this evening. And for those of you who are familiar with our How Many Works for Women book, I will be covering May's chapter. Brandy, it looks like somebody's saying that they can't see it. So I just want to make sure everybody is able to see our screen before we really jump into it. Oh, they can see it. Okay, never mind. False alarm. You're good, Brandy. All right. Gotta love technology because it always has its moments. Perfect. So for those of you who are familiar with our How Many Works for Women book, I'm going to be covering May's chapter this evening. So for those of you who know the book, in the book, May is what we call part of the sandwich generation. She is a professor who is taking care of her aging father while also helping her adult son. Now, because we're on Zoom tonight, I'm not able to see all of your lovely faces, but I want you to really think about the women who are in your own family. Who has always been the one that everybody else depends on? Maybe it's your mother, maybe it's your grandmother, a sister, a spouse. And so, how many of you know somebody that's caring for both aging parents and children at the same time, right? And how many of you might quietly be carrying that responsibility for your family? The truth is, we all know somebody that's living in this reality. And for me personally, this is not just something that I learned about from a book. It's something that I grew up watching. Brandy, can you take us to the next slide? There we go. It's moving a little bit slowly. So my first experience with the sandwich generation was watching my mom take care of both of her parents. My grandfather worked long hours as a railroad conductor for 30 years before he retired at age 55. My grandmother, she was a homemaker. She raised her 7 children, took care of the household, and never worked a day outside of the home. And when I was little, she also watched me while my parents worked. And so, as the oldest daughter, my mom was always expected to take care of them. And so, if we can go on to the next slide, please. Now, when we take a look at the stats from May's chapter, we see that more than half of Americans provide unpaid care to somebody over age 65. And 2/3 of those caregivers are, guess what, women. And so women who spend about 50% more time providing care than men. So if we can go on to the next slide. I think somebody asked why they're called the sandwich generation. It's because they're typically sandwiched between their parents and their kids, and they're taking care of everybody else in between as well. And so, as we can see from this next slide, women are 3 times more likely to end up in poverty and 5 times more likely to depend exclusively on Social Security, which is a challenge of its own. Because let's be real for a moment, who can depend 100% on Social Security alone when the average payment for Social Security is only about $2,000 per month? Now, for most parts of the country, that doesn't even cover your rent or your mortgage, not to mention the rising cost of food and utilities and everything else that we need. And also, when we look at parents who do have adult children at home, 35% of them are compromising their own retirement funds just to be able to help their children. And so, next slide, please. And so 1/4 of Americans are considered part of that sandwich generation. So that's a huge chunk of our population. So what I witnessed growing up, it wasn't necessarily unique. It was just kind of unspoken. And I think for many families, especially the women, that's how caregiving happens. It happens quietly, without any real recognition, sometimes without preparation, and a lot of times without any support. And so when my grandfather retired, he had a small government pension from his country. But when my family decided to immigrate, that pension stopped altogether. And so because of that, because of where my parents or grandparents grew up, My grandparents never learned how to drive. They didn't speak English. So every single doctor's appointment, every errand they had to run, every single need that they had depended on somebody else. And for the next 20 years, I watched my mom carry that responsibility. As my grandfather got older, his health declined. He had congestive heart failure and many other health challenges. And at the same time, my grandmother began facing her own health challenges. And as a teenager, I pretty much watched my mom do everything. She did it all. She was raising us, me and my brother. She was working, sometimes more than one job, and she was also caregiving. And sometimes that caregiving happened around the clock, 24/7. Yet she never complained, not even once. And she would spend sometimes days in the hospital with my grandparents and somehow still manage to show up for me and my brother. At one point, she was actually even helping to take care of her brother's three young children while he was going through a messy divorce. And at the time, I didn't fully understand or appreciate what I was witnessing. And I didn't see the cost that it involved either. I didn't see the missed opportunities. I didn't see the exhaustion. I didn't see that caregiving slowly changes a person's health, their finances, their career, and their entire future. Because when you love somebody, you don't really think of it as a sacrifice in the moment. You just do whatever needs to be done. But now, when I'm looking back, I can see why older women experience financial difficulties more often than men do. And that's because women tend to step away. They have to pause their careers, they have to give up their time, their energy, their earnings potential to take care of literally everybody else. And they do this out of love. But that love without planning, it can come with a real cost. And so we're going to talk about some of those costs and what that involves. If you can go on to the next slide, please. Perfect. So let's talk about long-term care. The average cost for a private nursing room in a nursing facility is currently about $100,000 per year. And so, should you need to go into a nursing facility, that average stay could be anywhere from 2.5 to 4 years. So think about that. That's an extra $250,000 to $400,000 in addition to whatever you have to save in retirement that most people aren't thinking about. Now, when we take a look at in-home care, that could be around $50,000 per year. And, if a family member is providing that care, it doesn't necessarily mean that that care, that cost just completely disappears, right? That cost never disappears, but it does shift. And, that is a number that most families never calculate what that true cost is. Because when we look at that number translates into missed promotions at work. It translates into reduced retirement savings. It translates into years out of the workforce. And not to mention, probably the most heaviest price of all, the emotional burnout that comes with it. And none of these costs show up on the medical bill. They are all very real. And you see, in my family, most of the care happened at home. There were times when my grandparents were in the hospital, sometimes two different hospitals at the same time for weeks at a time. But when they were home, the person that took care of them was my mom. And I witnessed this for years and years and years because my grandfather, we were so blessed to have him around. He lived to be 95 years old. And so if you remember from earlier, he retired when he was 55 and he lived to 95. So that's an extra 40 years in retirement that he needed not only financial support, but also caregiving support. My grandmother, she lived to be age 93. And what I didn't mention before is that they had a 12-year age gap. So we never expected for my grandma to last 10 years after my grandpa passed away, because at the time of my grandpa's passing, they had been married for almost 7 decades. My grandmother didn't know a life without my grandpa in it, yet she hung around for another 10 years after he was gone. And after losing him, her care didn't let down or slow down. It actually accelerated where she needed even more care, a lot of times 24/7. And the thing is, I truly believe that both of my grandparents gained an extra 15 to 20 years of life because of the excellent care that my mom gave them. And that's the beauty of the whole thing. But then there's also the reality, right? And so if we can go on to the next slide, please. The reality of long-term care is that 70% of people who are age 65 and older will need it at some point in their life, while only about 8% of people over the age of 55 have purchased some sort of long-term care coverage. Now, some of the updated stats that are not on this slide here tell us that about 22% of people out there have actually made some kind of preparation for long-term care. And in fact, more and more people are becoming aware of this as part of what their planning entails for retirement. And so if you are listening to this webinar, whether you're listening live or you watch this later on replay, I really hope that you are a part of that 22%. Because what might be one of the most shocking things to people when they see this is that 37% of people currently receiving care are under the age of 65. So this can happen to anybody at any time. Accidents and illnesses, unfortunately, do not discriminate based on age or gender. And so this is why financial education matters so much. It's not because money is the most important thing in the world, but because financial preparation can create options. It creates dignity, it can create flexibility, and sometimes it creates the ability to take care of the people that you love the most without having to destroy your own financial future in the process. And, after learning all this, this is exactly why I made a different decision. Unlike most people, I decided to secure long-term care for myself while I was in my 30s. Now, I didn't do this out of fear, but it was from that personal experience. I saw what this whole thing, what it did and what it took for my mom and all of the things that she went through because of it. And I didn't want that for my children. Because that's the other part of it also that we don't talk about. A lot of times when the caregiver is busy caring for their loved ones, there are other people, such as their kids or grandkids, perhaps, that maybe need them as well. And they pay a price for that part too. And so I did not want that for my kids or future grandkids. And so, and I share this not because my mom did anything wrong. She absolutely did not do anything wrong, but she unfortunately didn't have a plan because by the time my mom learned about long-term care, she was no longer eligible for it based on her health status. And so one of the invisible costs of long-term care most people don't see is the toll that it takes on the person that is providing the care. A lot of times that caregiver who's taking care of their loved ones ends up having much worse medical conditions than the people they were taking care of. And so my mom was only in her early 50s when she received a diagnosis that made her uninsurable, and she was not able to obtain long-term care coverage for herself. And so because of that, that's why I decided not to delay this important coverage for myself, because I realized just one doctor's visit can change everything. Next slide, please. And so now, as time moves on, I'm finding myself being in that same space. I'm raising my children while I'm being there for my parents. And so last year, we got this sudden news that my dad needed a quadruple bypass. And it was a complete shock because he never complains about anything. He wasn't even having any symptoms, yet the news came very fast. And after that, everything moved very quickly. We had just a few weeks to prepare him for surgery and get his entire life, his financial life in order. And so those conversations are not necessarily easy to have, but they are necessary. And so we have to talk about medical decisions, what his recovery was going to look like, what finances were going to look like, how much time he was going to have to take off from work, and of course, what would happen after all of this. And so in moments like that, you realize very quickly whether your family has a plan or they just have hope. And unfortunately, hope is not a strategy. So it's always better to be prepared than to be surprised. And so thankfully, everything went well with the surgery and my dad's doing great. And I truly believe part of that is because he had that peace of mind before going into that surgery. And also because of the business that I have been able to build here, I was able to be there for him every single step of the way. I was there for every single pre-op appointment. Every day he was in the hospital. My mom and I actually stayed at a hotel near his hospital so we can go see him every single day without missing a beat. And we were there for every step of that recovery. And one of the things I'm, just in awe of during that whole time is that while we're going through all of that with my father, I still was able to have one of the best months in business. And so to me, that just means that I didn't have to choose. I didn't have to sacrifice my career just to be there for my family. And, that part of it, it's not just a financial thing. It is a complete and total peace of mind thing that comes with it as well. And the biggest thing about all that is that I didn't have to call my boss and ask for permission, right? I didn't have to ask anybody else whether I could take the time off to be there for my father when he needed me the most. And the point that I want to drive home with that is that that's what this entire conversation is really about. And Brandy, if you can bring us on to the next slide, please. And so that's what this is really all about. It's being able to take care of the people we love the most without having to lose ourselves in the process. Because being a part of the sandwich generation, which I now have firsthand taste in what that's like, it shouldn't mean that we have to be financially unprepared. And when women, like all of us here on this webinar, when we understand how money works, we don't just change our own future. We change the future of every generation that comes after us. And so I'm really excited to, be able to share my story with you. As you can see, my family's on here. The first picture is 4 generations of women in our family, starting with my grandma, who started all of this. One amazing thing about mothers, since this month is all about mothers, when your grandma is pregnant with your mom, all of the next few future generations are with her as well. So when my grandmother was pregnant with my mom, myself and my daughter were there with her as well. And so although she's no longer here to be able to see all this and see what our family is now going through with my daughter graduating this year and all the amazing things are happening, she is still a part of that story and our legacy. And I'm so thankful to my mom that she introduced me to a business and an industry that completely changed the trajectory of my life over 2 decades ago. And so I'm thankful to be able to share my story with you today. And now I get to do something even more amazing. I actually get to introduce you to our next speaker here for this evening. She is actually a woman who needs no introduction, but I'm going to do my best to give her the best introduction because she deserves that and so much more. So I have the high honor of introducing Kim Schooler. She is the co-author of our award-winning book, How Money Works for Women. And her work has been instrumental in empowering women with the right knowledge and the tools to be able to navigate this complex world of finances. But Kim's achievements, they stretch far beyond the pages of her book. As a formidable lawyer, she not only graced the legal world with her presence, but she also won at the pinnacle of our judicial system, which is the Supreme Court. Her legal victories speak volumes of her dedication, her intellect, and an unwavering commitment to justice. In the realm of finance, Kim shattered the glass ceiling, serving as the president of Transamerica's largest security firm. Now, in a field where women's leadership is a rarity, she's just one of few women who has been the president out of the 5,000 firms that exist in our industry. And this illustrates her exceptional leadership skills and her pioneering spirit. Kim Schooler is not just a trailblazer, she is a visionary who has consistently paved the way for women in every field she has touched. Her journey is a testament to what women can achieve with determination, expertise, and a refusal to accept the status quo. And when I first started as a young woman in this male-dominated industry, Kim was one of the biggest inspirations in my life. Actually, I remember watching Kim from stage and hoping that one day I could have a one-on-one conversation with her. And now I feel incredibly blessed and humbled to be able to call her not only my friend, but also my mentor. So I would like everyone to help me in welcoming a true icon of empowerment, paving the way for future generations of women, Ms. Kim Schooler. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Myrnie. And I really love your story. I love what you shared about your um, mother and your grandmother. It just really resonates so much with me. And I think with a lot of women who, fall into that caregiver role or are blessed to be part of that caregiver role. Now, as Murray mentioned, I'm the co-author with the amazing Sharon Lechter of the women's book, How Money Works for Women, Take Control or Lose It. And Sharon and I, you all may know Sharon. She wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad and several other Rich Dad books. She wrote several books for the Napoleon Hill Foundation, including Think and Grow Rich for Women, 3 Feet from Gold, Outwitting the Devil. And of all of her books, Sharon will tell you that this is really one of her favorites because it really speaks to women in a way that's very practical and something that very busy women taking care of their families, their households, their careers can use to help, not only take care of themselves, but also create a legacy for their family, much like what Myrnie talked about. In the women's book, we tell the story about money through 9 different characters. They're all different ages, different points in their life, in their career, with their family. And, Murney talked about the May character, but there are several other characters in the book who are caregivers. Val is takes care of her special needs child. Dana has 2 children she cares for, and she's trying to save for college for them. Sarah, who left an abusive relationship with her children, built her finances back and put both of her children through school. To Fatima, who, took care of her family and at 73 finds herself a widow. To Jan, who also took care of her family, both in the home and also in the office. And so, we really want to embrace the fact that so many women do take on that caregiver role, much like Myrnie talked about. Now, another really big reason why Sharon and I wanted to write this book is there is a lot of wealth that is coming into the hands of women. And we feel very strongly that women need to really understand what their options are. They need to understand how money works so they can do things that they want to do for themselves and their families. So, by 2048, an estimated $124 trillion is going to pass to heirs. Now, 54 trillion of that will go to surviving spouses, many of whom are mothers and grandmothers, 95% of whom are women. Another 47 trillion will be inherited by daughters and granddaughters. So it's a lot of wealth that's coming into the hands of women. And because women are caregivers, Myrnie showed you a lot of the statistics. Women end up sacrificing their own personal financial plan to take care of their family. And just as you hear the flight attendants tell you on a plane, adjust the mask of of yourself first before adjusting the mask for your child. And we feel exactly the same way when it comes to money. Because if everyone's depending on you, if you fall down financially, it's going to create a domino effect in your family. Now, in addition to inheriting a lot of money, women are coming into their own. Where 60% of the college graduates out there, 49% of the workforce, 58% of workers in professional careers. But, there's always a but. But that nasty pay gap. Women earn just 81 cents for every dollar earned by a man. And it's even worse for Black women who earn just 65 cents for every dollar earned by Caucasian men. And this used to be 83 cents, then 82 cents. What happened? COVID. COVID happened and women had to come out of the workplace because we have to take care of our children, or we had to take care of our aging parents, or maybe we had a sick partner or other sick loved one that we had to take care of because of COVID. COVID set women back even further in terms of the pay gap. Now, a big reason, two big reasons women give for the pay gap. We are treated differently by our employers, and we have those caregiving responsibilities. And I don't feel like caregiving is a burden. I feel like caregiving is a blessing, that we're able to provide this for the people we care about is a pretty wonderful thing. And so I really embrace the fact that I'm a caregiver in my family, and a lot of the women I know are caregivers in their families as well. But when you look at the impact of that pay gap in real dollars, the median annual earnings in 2025 for men, it was a little more than $65,000. And for women, it was a little more than $54,000. So in real dollars, that pay gap translates into $11,000 less for women. Now, over a 40-year career, that's $462,000 less that we have to pay off debt, that we have to set aside for our financial goals. And so that is kind of the burden for women. It's not that we're caregivers, is that we are disadvantaged because of this pay gap. And because we're caregivers, if we want to work, if we want to pursue a career or academics, we do have to find childcare. And childcare is incredibly expensive these days. Because of the cost of childcare, nearly 500,000 women quit their jobs in the first half of 2025. Now, the good news is that women are starting more than half of all new businesses. Now, this particular statistic means a lot to me because this kind of tells my story. Not only do I love the picture, I love the picture because my son loved to play airplane. But, many of you know, and Myrnie mentioned, I'm a lawyer. I worked as in-house counsel for Transamerica for many years. I ended up serving as president of their largest broker-dealer in the United States. I would leave the office, I would rush to school, I would pick my son up from school, and then I'd rush to daycare most of the time. I'd rush to daycare and then go back to work. And every now and then I bring him to the office with me. He'd do his homework and I would do my work. And then when I finished the day, we would go home together. And so I picked him up from school one day and I said, honey, I've got to take you to daycare. And just with tears in his eyes, he says, Mommy, please take me to the office with you. I'll be good. I'll do my homework. Please, please, please. And unfortunately, the company made a rule that I can't do that anymore. And I get it. None of the other employees had that opportunity. They didn't realize that at the level I was at, I was working 24/7. And so this was time that I could spend with my child. But I get it. I said, honey, the company made a new rule that you can't come to work with me. And so I have to take you to daycare. And with tears in his eyes, my son said, Mommy, who would make a rule like that? And I said, you're right. Who would make a rule with that like that? That's a stupid rule. And who could say no to that beautiful face? Now, he was a little bit older when we had this conversation. He was 7 or 8 years old. Here, he's a little younger than that, but still, same cute face. Who could say no to that? And so I ended up changing my life. I left the corporate side and I started my own business, much like many women did during COVID and post COVID. Now, I chose because I was in the financial services industry to work in the financial services industry. Now, surprisingly, only 15% of workers in financial services are women, but 94% of women prefer to work with a female financial professional. And I knew that working in the broker dealer for Transamerica, I knew that. And I thought this would be a really great opportunity um, to, take what I've learned in financial services, help myself and help other women. Now, we've seen this happen before. We actually saw this happen in the real estate industry. Back in 1978, real estate agents were about 50% women. Why? Because in the 70s, women were granted for the very first time the ability to own our own home and to take out a mortgage in our own name. Before that, we either had to have our father or our husband sign for us. Today, women make up the majority of real estate agents. Now, women love the real estate industry. There's the potential for higher incomes, a flexible schedule, which is so important, especially if you're a mom. And we love helping other people. I mean, how great is it to help someone find their dream home? And so we want to ask, what we saw in the real estate industry, can we do the same thing in the financial services industry? Over the next 2 decades, I started just a little bit ago talking about the great wealth transfer. Women are going to be the beneficiaries of the greatest movement of wealth in the US. This is going to happen over the next 20 years. It will be a seismic redistribution of wealth that will redefine economic power in America for generations, which is another reason why Sharon and I wrote this book. So, what's possible when you have that profound need? Remember, 15% of women are in the financial services industry, but 94% of women want to work with a female advisor. And we've got all of this wealth that's being transferred to wives, mothers, daughters, and granddaughters. What's possible when that happens? And I would say our company, WealthWave. Now, this is just my story. After joining WealthWave, I was able to take my son to school every day, bring him home from school every day, take him to every band concert, every baseball game, every basketball game. I was there for him in a way that I was not able to do that as a corporate executive. And I didn't have to ask anybody for permission to do that. Today, he's going to be 30 in July. And he is this incredible human being. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I was able to spend so much time with him. Now, he went to the office with me. No one said he couldn't come in my financial office. He would do his homework while I finished my day. Excuse me. I'm at the tail end of that bad cold that's going around. So I apologize for that. But anyway, it's been wonderful having that time with him. In WealthWave, women represent about 45% of the financial professionals. And you can see from this picture, this was taken at our last convention, and this staircase wraps all the way around to the next floor. We had women on the second floor. And so we decided when we take this group picture next year, we're going to do it with a video camera. So somebody with a video camera actually climbs the stairway and we can see all of the women. Just like with real estate, in the financial services industry, we have the potential for higher incomes, a flexible schedule. But what about that purpose of helping someone find their dream home? Well, in WealthWave, we teach people how money works. We help them make their financial dreams come true. And I can't imagine anything more incredible than that. For me, it's been a path to create, grow, protect, and pass on wealth. And so I just want to share what this has meant to me. Everybody knows who's been around me that this is a big birthday year for me. I turned 65 this year. And I'm at a time with all my friends are retiring and downsizing, but I decided to upsize. Just like Myrnie, I decided to upsize. And so I bought a bigger house and I moved in with me, my wonderful sister and her daughter. Her daughter, Ryan, is now 18 years old. I moved my beautiful son and his amazing wife in with me. And I moved my 88-year-old mother in with me. She just turned 88 this past Friday. And it is amazing. You know, my caregiving responsibilities led me down a path to start my own business. And because of that, I've been able to make my dreams come true. And a big part of that is caring for other members of my family. And so for me, I thought it was so important in the month of May to really celebrate women, celebrate the breadwinners, celebrate the caregivers, celebrate the dreamers, the things that we want to create in our lives. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Brandy.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, Brandy.
Okay. Well, my goodness. I mean, I don't know if you guys are sitting here with tears in your eyes or feeling like maybe you're not doing enough, but I watch Myrnie, and I know her mom personally, and her mom is just a picture of grace and kindness. And although she struggles with so much pain, to watch the love of that family, what a way to take your power back. And I love what Myrnie said, that her family lived longer because of the care they give. And that I'm sitting here weeping, and y'all don't know that there's a big storm going on outside, and I'm pulling myself together. And then I hear Kim talk, and I happen to know a lot of people in Kim's family. And Kim, what a beautiful example. Like, this whole series about 1 million women take control. And look what Kim did. She took her power back. She has her boy. She has her boy's wife. She has her mom and her sister. And she didn't mention the cats, but ask her about the cats later. But I just want you guys to know that this podcast is meant to inspire and encourage in the fact that we are women and we are going to have things to do. But I have 2 more guest speakers tonight, and I'm super excited for you guys to meet them. The first one up is Stephanie Bauer. She is a sweet friend, and also a person, I don't even know how to explain her, but she comes with a background in tax accounting. She's a sweet friend, but she's also has a passion for financial education and retirement planning. She has a whole background for all this stuff. She loves the long-term care, but she has a story. And I want you guys to hear her story, because it's amazing to me when you hear where her parents came from, where they went, and what's kind of going on. You'll kind of see another thread of why women must plan. Stephanie, welcome. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, Brandy.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
So talk to us about your family. I'm just going to let you kind of go in and talk about your dad and where he worked and what were his thoughts on long-term care, and where are you currently with your parents?
Well, if you would let me share my screen, I have some pictures of them, because I just think my parents were the cutest people in the world. And
Are you able to share? There you go.
I believe so. Hopefully it's only showing the picture.
It's showing the reader.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want that.
Play from the start, that one. There you go.
All right. Thank you. Anyway, so unfortunately, both of my parents either have or had dementia. My dad was diagnosed probably about age 86, maybe 85, and he progressively obviously went downhill, because unfortunately that's what happens with dementia. My mom was his primary caregiver. And unbeknownst to us, we think she had the beginning stages of dementia. And so, to be honest, she was not the greatest caregiver. She didn't understand dementia, but it really wasn't through any fault of hers. She had dementia herself. Um, he went downhill. We had him in an adult day program. In addition to that, my sister also helped take care of him. But just between paying my sister a little bit of money and the day program, um, even that was probably $4,000 a month, which sounds like a lot of money for, not a whole lot of care.
Stephanie, there's something you said to me when we were talking about this, and I just want you to know, people said your parents are beautiful. They look like movie stars, and I don't disagree. But talk about your dad. Your dad was in the insurance industry. Talk about what his belief was with long-term care.
He was. He was a CFO at a big insurance company, and he had every type of insurance that you can imagine. Life insurance, health insurance, auto, home, disability. What did he not have? Long-term care. And I really don't, I did talk to him about it before he had dementia, and he just said, well, A, it's expensive, and B, we're not going to need it. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people live with an unrealistic expectation of the future. People don't think they're going to get sick. They don't think they're going to need, help bathing, toileting, getting dressed. And my parents were definitely those people. And they never wanted to leave their home, which was also kind of a big issue.
Right. And so your father ended up passing away in a long-term care facility. Did I get that right?
No, well, he had been at a rehab facility. He ended up with a blood infection that got into his brain. And I think because of his already compromised brain, he forgot how to walk. Yeah. And so we did end up bringing him home to pass away at home.
Okay. And so, Stephanie, your mom now is in care. And talk about, if you could give any word of advice to the women on this. We're being really honest, we're being really vulnerable, but you're walking some days in those shoes, much like Bernie, much like Kim. But what do you want people to know? What do you wish your parents would have done, and what do you want them to know?
I honestly, I wish people would explore different ways to pay for long-term care. It's not as out of reach as people think it is. Often, though, people wait until a diagnosis of, something like dementia. And then it's either too late, you can't get coverage, or it's just too. And so planning ahead, and honestly, knowing what the costs are, or having a good idea, because I have to be honest, before we started looking into memory care, assisted living, I had no idea that it was as expensive as it is. And it's just, it's cost prohibitive for so many people, and they end up depleting any financial resources they have, and then end up on Medicaid to cover expenses.
Yeah, so you guys, the big thing is you won't be able to get all the information on a 1-hour podcast, but whoever invited you tonight, make sure you talk to them about this. There are other options besides really expensive long-term care. There's riders, there's long-term care that doesn't take any need to for underwriting or whatever, any medical. So ask the person that invited you, ask those questions, because it is so empowering to get educated. Our next guest, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for sharing your story about your beautiful Hollywood parents. I'm going to invite our next guest up, and we're busting through these, but this next guest has a similar story, but let me tell you about her. Kristen Billows is in the industry, and she actually is a wholesaler, but that's not why she's here. She's not here to sell anything. We were sitting there talking the other day, and she mentioned her story. They've actually featured her mom's story as in Jackson, which is where she works, because it's such a phenomenal story of getting prepared and taking care of family. And Kristen, thanks so much for coming on. Go ahead and unmute and show your face. And I'd love for you to share your story, because it's a whole nother thing. It's phenomenal and powerful. Thanks for being here tonight.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to all the women who have shared their stories. There's a common thread here. Women just get it done, no matter what the cost is. But often the cost is ourselves. So if I can empower one person to grasp even a bit of what y'all have shared here and take action on it, not wait any longer, because again, as a woman, that's what we do. We have 1,000 things on the to-do list, and we put ourselves last. So someone mentioned put your own oxygen mask on first. That's exactly what tonight is. So I'm Kristen Billows, and as Brandy said, I am not here to sell you anything, but I am here to empower you to take actions. And I have to tell you, Brandy, it was a last-minute invite, so everyone's showing all these pictures, so I got to show a picture too. I hope that's okay. We're going to pop it up right here. And I should be able to see it. All right. So this is 1973. This is my mom and me in the Gulf of Mexico. That's what we called it. And, back then, women didn't have many rights, right? Everything started to change after 1974, but I had no clue about that. All I knew was that I loved my mom. And right at this moment, she was divorcing my dad, which meant a lot of things were not going to be available to her. Matter of fact, I carry this around, and if you can't see it, I'll just tell you, it says husband's consent for married woman's account. Ooh. And basically, they have to consent to the opening of an account with their firm, Merrill Lynch in this case, by their wife for buying, selling, trading securities, etc. Y'all, I had no idea this is like the uphill battle my mom was signing up for. So here we are. She's now divorced. I'm an only child, no family around. This guy named Sonny Boudreaux, this financial advisor named Sonny Boudreaux, kept calling on my mom. And every year, my mom would say, not now. I mean, she was making $32,000 a year, holding people's brains in her hands as a neurological nurse. And she was really just trying to survive and put food on the table for me. So Sonny kept calling. He kept trying to get her to get disability income, life insurance. She just kept saying no. Well, wouldn't you figure, after over a decade of Sonny calling her, she finally said yes. Sonny understood that no didn't mean not ever. It just meant not now. And 5 months later, at the ripe age of 46 years old, had a massive stroke. Y'all, the irony of all this, right? She works for the top neurosurgeon in all of the Southeast. Now we're into 1993. She's still making like very little money to hold people's brains in their hands. And Sonny changed the whole trajectory of my life simply because he was empowered to serve my mom. Let's face it, my mom was not a hot prospect in any way, shape, or form, but he served her. He didn't sell her, he served her. And he was a persistent man. So thank goodness for Sonny Boudreaux. Thank goodness that my mom lived, even though the priest gave her the last sacrament. She lived. We made the decision, made the decision to take her off life support once her parents arrived. And can I tell you the power of prayer? She started breathing as soon as we took her off. 6 months later, I got her home. I dropped out of LSU, and then I was her caregiver, and I heard this little voice in my head. My mom always wanted me to finish my college degree. You can be very successful without a college degree. She was. But the reality is that voice was in my head, and the only way I could take care of my mom and go back to college and finish my 12 hours I had left was because of Sunny Boudreaux, because we had the money coming in for the disability income to put her in a care facility, which, let me tell you, $900 a month in 1993 covered half of a nursing home, half of a skilled nursing home. She got her last check in 2013. It covered a fourth of an assisted living, a fourth. And today, as y'all already said, it's well up to six figures. Not being able to pay for long-term care or that kind of skilled nursing, if needed, even just assisted living, can wreck a retirement. So Sunny's service to my mom and me changed the entire trajectory of my life. But what I was sharing with Brandy, so that I was still in New Orleans, I graduated LSU, and I discovered Colorado. And if you haven't been to Colorado, it's almost as nice as California. There's no humidity, there's no bugs, and lots of sunshine. So I moved here, and I started working at one investment firm. Then I ultimately ended up at Jackson a few years later. And it was my 12th year at Jackson in 2012 when it hit me like a ton of bricks that I am serving the very people that changed the trajectory of my life. My full-time job is supporting financial advisors. That's how I've met Brandy and many other people throughout the last 3 decades. And so I'm happy to tell you that not only have I been able to build a career and a life because of what Sunny did for my mom and what each of you have the opportunity to do for the people in your life, but my mom is still alive. August 9th will be 33 years. She cannot write, she cannot speak, she cannot talk, but she is still that brilliant neurological nurse. She is completely competent. So you're probably wondering, how do you talk? You just ask a lot of questions, and her world is pretty limited. She has been able to witness me get married, have 2 beautiful children, and this lady chooses joy every day of the week. So, Brandy, thank you so much for letting me share that story. If anyone, just one person, takes action tonight, this will be a tremendous success, because as you've heard, these types of things don't happen as planned. What's the old saying? People don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan.
Yeah.
We got a lot of people on this call ready to help you take that next step.
Wow. Oh my goodness, Kristen, thank you. Like, we could go on for hours, you guys. I just want you to know there's so many people that if you'll just listen to their story, and as women, we always want to know. We talk about the best Pampers and get Huggies or Pampers or go to Carter and get these clothes, but we don't ever talk about these things. And I've had personal texts from people that are on the call right now stating, thank you so much for sharing this. This needs to be told. This needs to be heard. So I want you guys to know a couple things, and I was supposed to fix YouTube today, so just know YouTube should be no space. But I want you guys to know we are putting all of these on YouTube. And our mission is that you can send these out to people. It is about 1 million women taking control, and knowledge is power. Please, please, please watch them, send them to your friends. And then that first link, you can follow us there. The QR code that's green, I want you guys to know something, and I hope nobody left because there's some surprises on this one today. If you will scan that seminar feedback, and you will take that quick feedback form. Don't worry, we're not going to call you. We're not trying to give things away. Our mission truly is to make sure that we can meet your needs of what you're wanting to know. But Kim Schooler, I think you're offering something today. Do you want to share it, or do you want me to share it?
Sure. So we have updated the women's book. We sold out of every copy we had. So we took that opportunity to update the book. There are some new, updated statistics, but new surprises in there. And so for the women who do respond to that green QR code and give us feedback on the seminar, because we want to make it better, we will do a drawing, and the 5 women that we draw out will get a complimentary copy of the updated book, which should be out in print in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, I can't wait. You guys, the book is life-changing. If you don't have it, you can buy it on Amazon, but here's the hint, hint, wink, wink secret. Call the person that invited you, ask them to give you one when these are back in print, because we've all run out. and bug them until you get it in your hands, because it is life-changing. It will talk about things you never knew you needed to know. You didn't know you needed to ask the questions in the first place, and our mission is to get this in your hands. So get it for free, don't pay for it, if I can tell you anything, right? Save your money. It's about finances too. Okay, the next thing, and we're going to end here, we're going a little bit over, and I apologize, but this QR code, which was also the middle one on the other page, will get you signed up for the rest of the series. The next one coming up, Kim, remind me what it is. I forgot already. I apologize.
Oh, you put me on the spot there.
I know. I had it written down earlier.
We're going to send some information out about it, but it is a great topic. We've got the topics chosen for the rest of the year, and next month, June, is a really great topic.
So yeah, don't miss it. And if you've signed up for this one, if you have someone signed up under your email address, please make sure that you send us their email address so we can send out all these different links. We are super excited. I bet we're close to reaching 1 million women. We started this last year in 2024. We're going to continue it on. We're going to keep putting great content out there, having great speakers like Myrnie and Kristen and Stephanie, and of course Kim, who is leading the charge. What she does for women is life-changing, and we just want this to be a safe place for women to be. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being a part of it. I'm going to do one last plug, and then I'm done speaking for the night. We are looking to expand women financial educators. And so if you are looking for a secondary income, I'm just going to throw it out there, talk to the person that invited you. We need to, if 2/3 of the nation's wealth is going to be held by women. Please come and help us. We need more of you. So thank you guys for being on board. We're super excited to see you, and have a great night.